Arnold Schwarzenegger stood beneath the blinding studio lights, a worn medal tucked in his coat pocket, and a silence swelling between two men who'd stopped pretending to talk. He came to share a film about redemption, but instead found himself being cross-examined on live television. As the cameras rolled and the crowd waited for applause that never came, Arnold faced a choice no script could prepare him for. Defend his faith quietly or let his past be weaponized for entertainment. He didn't raise his voice. He simply stood up and walked away. But was that strength or surrender? Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from today. And if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. The Ed Sullivan Theatre buzzed with routine, lights warm, audience humming. The kind of night that promised another charming celebrity interview. Arnold Schwarzenegger had arrived to promote his latest film, a stripped-down father-son story, rooted in guilt, redemption, and second chances. Behind the curtain, tension had already begun to collect. Colbert's team, according to a floor producer, had spent the afternoon fine-tuning what they called mirror questions, the kind that didn't look like attacks until they hit. "I want to push him," Colbert had said. "Make him explain how someone with that past can talk about redemption with a straight face." The writers laughed. The control room stayed quiet. Arnold didn't know the details, but he knew energy. And something about tonight felt slanted. In the green room, he sat alone, holding a small object in his hand, a medallion worn, unpolished. It wasn't from Hollywood. It was from Sacramento, the governor's service medal. A gift from his final year in office. Etched on the rim was a motto, "Serve with honor." He rubbed it between his fingers like it still had warmth. The stage manager knocked. "5 minutes, Mr. Schwarzenegger." He rose slowly, adjusted his jacket, slipped the medal into his inside pocket. No entourage, no fanfare, just a man who had learned the hard way that silence sometimes weighed more than words. As the audience settled in, laughter rolled from Colbert's opening monologue. Political jabs, cultural riffs, applause on cue, all familiar, all safe. Until now. Please welcome Arnold Schwarzenegger. The crowd erupted, cheers, nostalgia. Phone flashes. The camera panned as Arnold walked out, posture steady, smile familiar. He shook Colbert's hand, sat down, crossed one leg over the other. Colbert grinned. "Governor, Terminator, director, is there anything you haven't done?" Arnold smiled back. "I haven't hosted this show yet, but there's still time." Laughter a good start, smooth, controlled. They talked about the new film, a quiet, heavy drama about a father trying to rebuild trust after a public betrayal. Arnold spoke softly, more like a teacher than a star. "You know," Colbert said after a pause, "this movie's about a man who hurt people, then tried to win back their trust. I have to ask, how personal was that for you?" Arnold didn't blink. "I know what it means to fail, and I know what it costs to try again." The crowd hushed, not out of discomfort, but recognition. Colbert leaned forward. "And you think directing a movie is trying again?" "No," Arnold said. "Trying again is what happens when the cameras are off." Laughter didn't follow, just silence. The audience wasn't sure where this was going. Colbert pressed. "You've spoken about growth, responsibility, but let's be honest. Some people think you found those words after the tabloids moved on, after the damage was done." Arnold didn't change expression. "I didn't find anything, I stayed." "Stayed where?" "In the lives I broke." A pause. "You think that's enough?" Colbert asked. "I think the people I show up for get to decide that." Backstage, Arnold's longtime assistant stood motionless. In her bag was a letter handwritten by Arnold's son, a letter he kept but never quoted. A reminder that tonight wasn't just press. Colbert shifted tone. "You've been a global icon, a political figure, but when it comes to your past, you've stayed mostly silent. Is this film your confession?" "No," Arnold said. "It's a mirror. And a warning." "To who?" "To anyone who thinks power makes you immune to consequences." The theater was still. You could hear a heel tap, a throat clear. One laugh tried to break the tension. It failed. Colbert smiled again, tightly. "Well, I've got to say, that's a pretty elegant rebrand." Arnold's head tilted. "I'm not rebranding, I'm rebuilding." Colbert's smile didn't move. "Same thing, just better lighting." Arnold didn't flinch. Lighting doesn't change what's broken, just what people see. The applause light didn't come on, no one moved, the air had shifted, and the ambush had only just begun. Colbert adjusted the index cards in front of him. Not because he needed them, but because the air had thickened. He glanced at the next question, then skipped it. So, let's talk about faith. Arnold looked up. My faith is personal. Sure, Colbert said, but personal doesn't mean private. Not when you make movies about redemption, not when you use words like forgiveness in every interview. The audience stirred. Arnold didn't move. I speak about what helped me survive the worst parts of myself. That's not evangelizing, that's telling the truth. Colbert smiled thinly. Is it? Because I've looked at your press tour, and you've been very careful. You talk about pain, but not whose pain. You talk about healing, but not whose wounds. Arnold didn't answer right away. Then, I talk about the mistakes I made and the people I failed. I just don't name them for applause. A ripple ran through the crowd. Colbert leaned forward. But that's the thing, isn't it? You want to be seen as the man who rebuilt himself, who took responsibility. But the parts that made headlines, the betrayal, the child out of wedlock, they're still behind glass. Arnold's jaw tightened, barely. Those parts belong to people who didn't ask for cameras. I carry that story, but I won't parade it. Backstage, someone dropped a clipboard. The control room didn't cut away. Colbert tapped his desk once. But you're here, right? Public stage, public story. Don't you think the audience deserves to know who you really are, not just the version cleaned up for Sundance? Arnold looked straight at him. No smile now. I'm not hiding. Then say it. Arnold blinked. Say what? Say you abandoned your family. The line didn't land like a joke. It landed like an accusation. The air shifted. Someone near the front gasped. Another whispered, "What is he doing?" Arnold's hand gripped the arm of his chair, then slowly released. I hurt the people closest to me, he said, and for the last 15 years I've shown up, quietly, not because I was told to. Because I needed to. Colbert wasn't done. Okay, but show up where? To PTA meetings, to photo ops. Let's be real, you were governor of California. You were on movie sets. You were everywhere but at home. Arnold didn't raise his voice. I was present in the wrong places and absent where it mattered. That's my failure. And now you want redemption. No, Arnold said. I want accountability. Colbert cocked his head. What's the difference? Arnold leaned in slightly. Redemption is what people give you. Accountability is what you give yourself. A pause, heavy, honest. The audience didn't clap. They watched. Colbert sat back, smiling like a man preparing his next move. Let me ask you this. You talk about growth. But on the issues that matter, abortion, marriage equality, immigration, you've stayed silent. Isn't silence just another form of complicity? Arnold blinked slowly. I'm not a candidate. I'm not here to score points. I've lived the issues you list. Yeah, Colbert pushed. Which ones? I came to this country with nothing, Arnold said. I've seen what injustice looks like with an accent. I've held my child in a courtroom. I've sat with women in crisis who didn't need laws. They needed someone who'd listen. Colbert cut in. Then why not speak louder? Arnold's voice dropped. Because sometimes loud isn't honest. Sometimes loud is just performance. Another shift, this time from the control room. Should we cut to break? Someone asked. No, the director whispered. This is real. Colbert's voice rose slightly. So you get to be the quiet moralist. You get to hide behind dignity while real people are fighting real battles. Arnold sat up straighter. I'm not hiding. I'm refusing to let you turn this into spectacle. Colbert leaned in. This is spectacle. It's television. That's the deal. Arnold looked toward the audience and then back at him. Then maybe the deal's broken. A long silence. Colbert didn't smile now. So you won't say where you stand. I stand where I live, Arnold replied. Not on hashtags, not on stage, but where my mistakes still live in the eyes of the people I hurt. He turned slightly, not away, but inward. And I don't answer to your script. The room fell still. No applause, no jokes, only tension, and the sense that something much bigger was just starting to crack. Colbert exhaled through his nose. He shuffled the cards in front of him again. None of them seemed useful anymore. Arnold wasn't following the plan. "You know," Colbert said, tone light but eyes sharp, "for someone who's made a career playing strong men, you're remarkably fragile when it comes to being challenged." Arnold's expression didn't change. "That's not fragility," he said. "That's restraint." The line cut clean. No force, just pressure. Colbert blinked. "So what is this? You came here to sell a movie, but now we're in some kind of therapy session about accountability and silence." Arnold's hands rested calmly on the arms of his chair. "I came here in good faith." "Right, good faith," Colbert repeated. "Faith's a funny thing. It's always used to explain things after the damage is done." Arnold's jaw tensed. "I don't use faith to explain anything. I use it to live better than I did before." Colbert leaned forward. "And what about before?" Arnold didn't answer immediately. "Before," he said slowly, "I was arrogant. I believed that success could fix what character broke. And it didn't. It never does." The crowd didn't know what to do with that. They weren't used to stillness on this stage. Colbert saw the silence and filled it. "You said earlier that you've been showing up for 15 years, but you've also been making movies, doing speeches, appearing in photos. Forgive me, but it sounds a little convenient." Arnold raised his chin. "Convenient for who?" "For you," Colbert shot back. "For the image." Arnold didn't move. "There is no image. There's just a man who failed and got tired of pretending he didn't." The words weren't loud, but they carried like glass breaking. Colbert adjusted his tie twice, then dropped the punch. "Let's just be real, Arnold. You had an affair, you had a child, you lied to your wife, then you disappeared into office and muscle-flexing documentaries." A sharp inhale echoed from the back row. Arnold didn't flinch. "You're right," he said, "except for one thing." Colbert raised an eyebrow. "I didn't disappear." Arnold's voice stayed level, but his fingers curled against the chair's arms. "I paid for his school. I showed up to every birthday, every court meeting. I taught him how to drive. I never called the press, because that story wasn't mine alone." Colbert opened his mouth, but Arnold cut in. "And I've apologized. Not on camera, not to crowds, but to the people who deserved to hear it first." He paused. "Not everyone gets that chance." The studio fell quiet again. Colbert nodded once, as if acknowledging a punch, then smiled, but the edge was back. "So you're telling us you're redeemed?" Arnold looked at him. "No, I'm telling you I'm still trying." Colbert's tone hardened. "But you still won't take a stand on anything. Abortion, gay marriage, immigration. Things that actually affect people, things that matter." Arnold shifted forward. "You don't get to define what matters to me." "I'm just saying." "No," Arnold cut in. "You're accusing. Let's not pretend this is curiosity." Colbert raised both hands. "I'm doing what interviewers do." "No," Arnold said again. "You're doing what people do when they can't believe someone changed without asking their permission." The air snapped. The audience froze. Colbert narrowed his eyes. "You want to talk about permission? Let's talk about your staff. Your silence when reporters asked for comments. The way you avoided interviews until your movie had something to sell." Arnold stayed calm. "I wasn't avoiding, I was rebuilding. With a script, with a shovel." A pause, then Colbert tried again. "But you chose now, didn't you? Right before your film drops. You could have said all this years ago." Arnold nodded. "Yes, but I wasn't ready." "Ready for what?" "For people like you," Arnold said, "who don't want to understand, they just want to catch." Colbert didn't like that. "And what exactly am I catching?" Arnold looked him in the eye. "Whatever makes you feel superior." Colbert slammed his hand on the desk. "You're deflecting." "No," Arnold said, "I'm defending." Colbert leaned closer. "From what?" Arnold's reply was quiet. "From being turned into content." That landed. Hard backstage, a producer mouthed to another, cut to break, but the director just stared at the screen wide-eyed. Colbert straightened up. "You know what this looks like, right? You come on here with your morality, your story, and now you won't answer anything straight." Arnold exhaled slowly. "I've answered everything straight, you just don't like the shape of it." Colbert's voice rose. "You came here to sell redemption." "No," Arnold said, "I came here to talk about a film." Same thing. No, Arnold said again, sharper this time. Redemption is personal, this is public spectacle. The audience stirred again, uncertain. Divided, Colbert's mask cracked just a little more. So what, you're walking away now? Arnold didn't move, not yet. Colbert leaned back. He gave a half smile, the kind that didn't come from humor, but from control. You know, Arnold, I've sat across from a lot of people who say they've changed, but when the questions get tough, they always find a reason to hide behind something. Faith, family, silence. Arnold didn't answer. His expression didn't change. Colbert leaned in. So let's get real. Where do you stand? Roe v. Wade, marriage equality, trans rights. Do you support them or not? The room stilled. Arnold exhaled once, not loudly, just enough to be heard in the front row. I stand for people, he said. Colbert rolled his eyes. That's not an answer. It's the only one I give when the question's designed to trap instead of understand. Colbert's tone sharpened. You want to talk about traps? You're the one making a career out of redemption, of being the man who changed, so show us. Arnold looked out into the crowd, then back at Colbert. Changed men don't need to perform for people who don't want to believe them. Colbert pressed on, so you won't say it. I already have. Not clearly. Then maybe you're not listening. The words hit like steel. Colbert's fingers tapped on the desk. Once, twice. This is disappointing, he said. I thought you were different. I thought you had the courage to speak plainly. Arnold didn't move. You want me to speak on command, like this is a test? It's not. No, Arnold, it's a platform, and you're wasting it. Arnold's voice dropped. Courage isn't yelling louder than everyone else. Sometimes, it's staying quiet when you're baited to betray yourself. Colbert's jaw clenched. So now I'm the bait. You're the host, Arnold replied, but tonight you're playing prosecutor. The crowd stirred, some confused, some leaning forward, some crossing their arms. Colbert pointed now, you're a public figure. You've built a brand off discipline, morality, responsibility, and yet when asked to stand for something real, you duck. Arnold blinked. You think a man who sat face to face with his son and said, I broke our family, is ducking. His voice didn't rise, but something in it burned. I've stood in front of the only judge who matters, someone I once failed, and I didn't give him speeches, I gave him years. Colbert tried to cut in. Arnold didn't let him. I've watched the press twist stories I never told. I've seen my mistakes used as late-night punchlines, but I didn't retaliate. I stayed silent, because the people I owed answers to weren't in studios. They were in kitchens, bedrooms, courtrooms. He leaned forward slightly. You don't get to weaponize my quiet. Colbert looked rattled now. The smile didn't return. I'm trying to have a real conversation, he said. No, Arnold replied. You're trying to stage a confrontation. Colbert stood up, not fast, but enough to signal that the mask was slipping. I ask questions, that's my job. And I answer as a man, Arnold said. Not as your content. There was movement in the audience. Two people stood up near the back, not in protest, in discomfort. Colbert tried to regain control. Look, he said, gesturing to the camera, we live in a moment where staying neutral means siding with oppression. People need role models, not fence-sitters. Arnold stood now. The camera angle shifted to frame both men, Colbert behind the desk, Arnold beside the chair. I'm not neutral, Arnold said. I just don't scream my values through someone else's script. He turned toward the audience. I believe in dignity, in work, in giving people second chances, and I've lived long enough to know that shouting into microphones doesn't make you brave. Colbert's voice rose, and refusing to speak doesn't make you wise. Arnold turned back. You're right, but neither does ambushing a guest and calling it journalism. There was a pause, a sharp, loaded silence. Then Colbert stepped closer. So you're walking away now? Arnold didn't blink. I came here to speak about a film that took 5 years to make, about a man trying to earn his son's forgiveness. He paused. I'm not going to destroy that just to pass your test. Colbert was flushed now, a hand on the desk, the other gripping his cue cards tightly. You're dodging, you're doing what powerful men always do, controlling the terms of the conversation. Arnold looked at him. No. I'm doing what changed men do, refusing to be defined by the worst moment of their past. Colbert tried one last shot. So you're too proud to answer. Arnold took a breath. I'm too proud to pretend this is honest. A gasp rippled through the room, then applause, hesitant at first, then growing, a beat of recognition, a room shifting. Colbert stepped back. Arnold didn't smile, didn't bow, didn't thank the crowd. He stood still, unmoving, unyielding. And in that silence, he said more than any answer could. Colbert didn't speak, not right away. He looked down at his cards, then up again, searching for a way to reset what had already slipped beyond his control. Arnold remained standing, calm, centered, like a man who had already decided something and no longer needed permission to act on it. Colbert tried, "Fine, walk away, but don't pretend like that proves anything." Arnold tilted his head slightly. "It proves I respect myself too much to keep standing here." Colbert gestured toward the audience. "They came here for a real conversation." Arnold glanced at the crowd, then back at Colbert. "No, they came here for a film. For a story about redemption. Instead, they got a performance, just not from me." The audience shifted. Some whispered. Some sat frozen. One woman near the front reached for her partner's hand. Colbert narrowed his eyes. "You're really going to use my stage to act like a martyr?" Arnold shook his head slowly. "No, I'm going to use it to leave with dignity." The control room buzzed. "Should we go to commercial?" "No one dares cut." Arnold stepped around his chair. He didn't storm. He didn't pose. He moved like a man who knew the weight of silence and had chosen to carry it visibly. He stopped just before the exit, turned not to Colbert, but to the camera. "To anyone watching who came here to hear about a film that cost 5 years of my life, I'm sorry you didn't get that tonight." He paused. "The movie is about a man trying to earn back the trust of someone he once failed. That's all I ever wanted to be." No applause, no cue light, just the hum of a studio unsure whether it had become something too honest to air. Colbert, still standing, tried to regain footing. "So that's it. You call me the villain and walk off into applause." Arnold looked over his shoulder. "There's no applause in real accountability." Colbert took a breath, but Arnold was already turning away. 2 steps, then 3. He reached the edge of the stage before stopping once more, facing the audience now, not with defiance, not with ego, with clarity. "I've done many things wrong in my life. I've failed people, I've broken promises, but I've also stayed. And rebuilt, not with speeches, with years." He looked out over the rows of faces, people who had come for entertainment and were now witnessing something else entirely. "And I won't let anyone use that journey to score points." Someone near the back clapped. One clap, then silence again. Arnold turned and walked off stage. No music, no lights, just the sound of his shoes against the studio floor. Backstage, his assistant waited, coat in hand, expression unreadable. Colbert stood behind his desk, still frozen, cue cards limp in his fingers. His producers stared through the control booth glass, not angry, just stunned. He finally spoke. We'll be right back with the musical guest." But the damage was done. Some audience members stayed seated, unsure whether to applaud or not. Others began to rise quietly, making their way toward the exits as if leaving a courtroom, not a comedy show. No one was laughing. No one was filming. It didn't feel like content anymore. It felt like consequence. Arnold stepped outside the studio doors into the night air. The city buzzed around him, cabs, neon signs, the distant sound of a siren. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Behind him, a show continued, but something had ended. And across the country, millions would soon watch that moment, not for the jokes, but for the silence that followed. The next morning, the headlines didn't need help. Arnold walks off Colbert stage after live clash. "I respect myself too much to stay." SCHWRZNEGGR studio. Silence strikes louder than shouting. Clips of the exchange spread fast. Not because they were loud, but because they were still. Frozen frames of Arnold standing, Colbert pointing. A crowd caught in the space between applause and discomfort. The hashtags came next. Arnold walks. Respect in silence. Late night lost. Viewers debated every moment. Was it a meltdown, a trap, a reckoning, or something else? A man finally refusing to perform. By noon, the split was sharp. Some praised Colbert for asking the hard questions. Others called it an ambush, but the tide shifted quickly. Editorials appeared. Colbert tried to win, Arnold tried to heal. When late night lost the room. What happens when a man refuses to be framed? Inside the industry, concerns spread faster than commentary. A major advertiser pulled a segment deal. Two sponsors quietly issued statements about valuing respect and integrity in all environments. Colbert's team cancelled that night's taping. Internally, staff were divided. Some said he lost control. Others whispered that he lost himself. Backstage footage leaked, producers arguing, a stagehand saying he wouldn't stop. He just kept pushing. Someone else muttered, Arnold warned him, he just didn't yell it. Meanwhile, Arnold stayed quiet. No tweets, no interviews, just a statement released through his publicist. I'm proud of the film I came to share. I regret the discussion became something else. I hope Mr. Colbert finds peace. I already have. The message didn't trend, but it was shared quietly and remembered. Critics reviewed the film that weekend. Some focused on the story, others, unavoidably, on the moment it had become attached to. A restrained, powerful drama about a man rebuilding what ego once destroyed. In other words, a biography told in fiction. Box office numbers climbed, not explosively, but steadily, like people were showing up not just to see a film, but to witness a position, not political, moral. Across comment sections and dinner tables, a different conversation had started. About dignity, about how far someone had to go to not be pulled into the noise, about whether strength meant defending every corner or walking away when the rules change mid-game. Some called Arnold weak for leaving, but more called it something else. Human. The final scene in the interview, the moment Arnold turned to the camera and said, I'm not going to destroy this story just to pass your test, was replayed over and over. In one classroom, a high school teacher paused the clip and asked, what test do you think he meant? No one answered right away, because that was the point. It wasn't just about Arnold. It was about what we demand from people and what they owe, if anything, in return. In the days that followed, Colbert returned to air. His tone was different, more cautious, less certain. He opened with a line that tried to make light of it all. But the audience didn't laugh, not the way they used to, not yet. Arnold, on the other hand, moved on. He kept promoting the film in small interviews, community screenings, private talks, no viral clips, no sound bites. Just a man talking about mistakes and how long it takes to make amends. What lingered wasn't outrage. It was a question. What does it cost to walk away from a stage and still leave with your story intact?